This whole story started because I love to fish. A few years back I bought a beautiful house right on a private lake. It was perfect. The water was clean, the fishing was incredible, and the best part, the previous owner had a grandfathered-in clause that gave me exclusive unrestricted fishing rights to the entire lake. This wasn't some handshake deal. It was legally documented, ironclad and filed with the county. I spent my days out on my little boat, enjoying the peace and quiet, catching and releasing, just living the dream. For the first year, everything was great. My neighbors were friendly enough, and the Homeowners Association, or HOA, mostly left me alone. But then, a new HOA president was elected. Let's call her Karen. Karen was one of those people who believed her sole purpose in life was to enforce rules, even if she had to make them up. She started by sending me notices about my perfectly manicured lawn, then my unapproved mailbox cover. I just ignored them, but then, she set her sights on my fishing. She started leaving notes on my door, telling me that fishing was now prohibited on the lake for all residents. I politely sent her a copy of my legal documents, highlighting the part about my unrestricted fishing rights. I thought that would be the end of it. Oh, how wrong I was. This just seemed to make her even more determined. She started sending me fines, which I obviously didn't pay. She'd stand on her deck and yell at me through a megaphone whenever I was out on my boat. It was becoming a real nuisance, but I wasn't going to let her bully me out of my own legal rights. The situation escalated. One day I found the tires on my boat trailer slashed. Another day, my fishing gear, which I'd left on my dock, was thrown into the water. There was no direct proof it was her, but the timing was too coincidental. I installed security cameras, and sure enough, I caught her and a couple of her HOA cronies sneaking onto my property at night. I sent the footage to the HOA board and the police. The police gave her a warning for trespassing and vandalism, and the HOA board was forced to tell her to back off. For a little while, things were quiet. I thought I'd finally won. But then, the really crazy part happened. One morning I went out to my boat and noticed something was wrong. The water looked weird. It had a strange milky sheen to it, and there was a faint chemical smell in the air. A few dead fish were floating near the shore. My heart sank. I just knew, the HOA was behind this. My immediate thought was that they had poisoned the lake to kill the fish, just to stop me from fishing. It was a vile, disgusting act. But it was exactly the kind of unhinged thing I'd come to expect from Karen. I immediately called the Environmental Protection Agency and the state's Department of Fish and Wildlife. I explained the situation, told them about my ongoing battle with the HOA, and described what I was seeing. They took it very seriously and said they'd send investigators out right away. While I was waiting, I did a little digging of my own. I was angry, but I was also curious. What could they have possibly used? I went online and started researching common algicides and herbicides, chemicals that could make the water look like this. And that's when I stumbled upon something that made my blood run cold. While looking at county water management plans, I found a document detailing the water supply for our community. I had to read it 3 times to believe it. Our entire neighborhood, all the houses in this pristine lakeside community, got their drinking water from an aquifer that was directly fed by, you guessed it, our lake. The water was pumped from the lake to a local treatment facility and then piped right back to our homes. The HOA, in their genius plan to stop me from fishing, had poisoned their own water supply. The sheer stupidity was mind-boggling. I printed out everything. The water supply charts, the geological surveys, the public records. I had a beautiful, damning pile of evidence. When the EPA investigators arrived, I greeted them with a folder full of everything they needed. I showed them the water, told them my story, and then, for the grand finale, I showed them the proof that the HOA had just contaminated the drinking water for over 200 homes. The investigators' faces went from concern to absolutely grim. This was no longer just about killing a few fish. This was a major public health crisis. They took water samples, and within hours, the entire neighborhood was on high alert. Emergency notices went out. Do not drink the water. Do not use it for cooking, bathing, nothing. The county had to truck in bottled water for everyone. People were panicking, and rightfully so. The investigation was swift. The lab results came back confirming the presence of a dangerous non-approved industrial chemical in the lake. Armed with my security footage from previous incidents and the new evidence, it didn't take long for the authorities to zero in on Karen and her friends. Under questioning, one of them cracked and confessed everything. They admitted to buying the chemical and dumping it into the lake under the cover of darkness, all to get back at the guy who thinks he's above the rules. The fallout was spectacular. Karen and her 2 accomplices were arrested on multiple felony charges, including conspiracy, vandalism, and reckless endangerment of a public water supply. The news went local, then national. HOA poisons own drinking water to stop man from fishing. It was a headline made for the internet. The HOA was dissolved almost overnight, buried under an avalanche of lawsuits from every single homeowner in the neighborhood. The cost to decontaminate the lake and the water treatment facility was in the millions, and the now defunct HOA's insurance refused to cover it due to it being a malicious, criminal act. This meant the residents, including Karen and her friends, were on the hook for the damages. My fishing rights were, of course, reaffirmed. It took over a year for the lake to be fully cleaned and restored. The ecosystem is slowly recovering, and I've started seeing fish again. The neighborhood is under new management now, a much more reasonable group of people who leave me and my boat alone. Sometimes, when I'm out on the water, I think about Karen. I imagine her trying to explain to her fellow inmates that she's in prison because of a fishing dispute. It was a long, stressful, and frankly insane journey, but in the end I got to keep my peaceful fishing spot, and a whole community learned a very expensive lesson about what happens when you let a petty tyrant run wild. Thanks for listening to my story, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more